on, everybody? Cheers. Happy Wednesday and welcome to Trades Lady Happy Hour. If you're new here, this is the series where each week I introduce you to a new tradeswoman, some woman who's been out there kicking butt in the industry. We work with or highlight women of all different trades, whether they're auto mechanics, helicopter mechanics, welders, fabricators, body girls, painters, you name it. We've had all sorts of amazing women on Happy Hour Live, and it's been getting bigger and better all the time. We're on our 84th episode, I believe. I do want to thank our sponsor, Drive Time, for showing their support of women in the trades by supporting this little series of ours. And as I mentioned, in the future, hopefully due to their support, we're going to be able to bring this not just to Instagram, but hopefully spreading it out a little bit more into some other areas as well. So stay tuned for lots of good things to come. But in the meantime, I want to thank you guys for tuning in and being so supportive of this series. And I want to thank our sponsor for making this possible. And I want to very soon introduce you to our guest for this week. Her name is Bella, and I'm going to totally mangle her last name. I think it's Zakia, but I'm probably wrong, so she will correct me, I am sure. She is up and coming in the industry. She started out in high school, wound up going into getting a bachelor's degree in automotive restoration, and she's now working in a restoration shop and doing exactly what she set out to do. So she's relatively young within the industry. However, I think she's probably got a really interesting story to share. I'm really excited to get to meet her and chat with her a bit, and hopefully you guys will enjoy meeting her as well. So I am going to see if she's joined the room yet. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. The top of my head is getting cut off. I'm readjusting. Okay, there we go. Cheers.
Cheers. What are you drinking?
I am drinking bourbon, which I shouldn't be doing because I had probably more than I should have last night. So, but, you know, I had friends in town, and what are you going to do? You got to enjoy life, right?
I understand. Trust me.
What are you sipping on there?
I have a Guinness drought. I don't know. It's a Guinness.
I think it's drought. Very nice. Very nice. Are you at home now?
I am. It's just me and the doggy hanging out.
Nice. What part of the world are you in right now?
I currently live in Tennessee. I live in McMinnville. It's about an hour and a half outside of Nashville.
Okay. Very cool. So you're in like Bourbon Central, aren't you?
Yeah.
What are you doing drinking Guinness when you're in Bourbon country?
I'm a beer person. I do like whiskey. We've been to the Jack Daniel's distillery. We went to the nearest green distillery. There's a few others around here. So, awesome. But that's a weekend thing.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. So I probably mangled your name, didn't I? How do you pronounce your last name?
You were actually really, really close, which most people don't even get close. It's Zakia. You nailed it. You did good.
Awesome. Yes. What do you often get called instead? How do they pronounce it?
I get everything from Zachariah to Zakia to Zachia. I get Zachia a lot.
Oh, that's fun. I love it. I have that kind of last name too. I'm like, it's close enough.
Yep. Sometimes it's just not worth it.
Nope, absolutely. Well, welcome. I gave everybody a short introduction to who you are, but do you want to, in your own words, say what you do and?
Sure. So I work for Graveyard Run Restorations in a small town called Bradyville. We're a fairly small shop. We're like 6 people tops. And we do pre-1970 vehicles. So today I worked on a 1937 Chrysler Imperial, and I've been working on a 54 Packard. And I pretty much do a little bit of everything, except metalwork. I'm not a fan of welding. I can weld, don't like it.
All right.
Don't like the sparks. It's not for me. But I mostly do mechanical, final assembly, wiring, and then occasionally I help out in the paint booth or with research and doc. So
very cool. And how long have you been with this shop?
A little over a year now. I
Okay.
just started out last November.
Nice. Now you went kind of a windy, twisty path to get to where you're at right now. Can we
Yeah.
go back in time a little bit and like, when did this journey start for you?
On accident when I was 15. I went to a high school 40 minutes away from me because of gang activity in the local high schools. Um, so I went for Future Educators of America. I was planning to be a teacher,
Oh,
always wanted to do teaching. And I was end of my freshman year, me and my boyfriend were trying to get a class together, and he's like, oh, they have automotive. And I was like, well, I've always wanted to work on cars. Let's do it. And it was not automotive, it was small gas engines. And I liked it so much I stayed. It just, that's how it worked. And then when I was
I
a
love it.
senior in high school, I had the opportunity to either go into education or do something else. And I'm not big on government and education, so I was like, let's do something else. And I was watching Counts Customs at the time. It was just on TV, and I Googled colleges for auto restoration, and I found McPherson. And
Oh,
so I went to college knowing nothing about cars,
I
and
love it.
yep, graduated early. I graduated a year early with a bachelor's degree in it. So
Nice. Good for you.
thanks.
Cheers to that. So I want to stay on the like history for a moment. Like you said, you were always interested in automotive back before you were a freshman in high school. Where did that interest come from? Do you know?
Um, it must have just been ingrained. My parents were not car people. I didn't know car people growing up, but we would go driving and my dad would be like, look at that Edsel, or look at that Cadillac, or oh, that's so cool. Grandpa used to have one just like it.
Oh,
But he was a carpenter by trade when I was
okay.
growing up. So I grew up doing woodworking, building decks, doing roofing, tiling, a lot of construction. So I had that blue collar background, and it must have just carried over. But I always thought cars were cool. Just at first it was just the looks of them, and then the more I got involved, the more I was like, oh, this is awesome.
So you take small gas engines
Mm-hmm.
in your high school, and then what was it about it that had you hooked?
I think it was the challenge. I think it was working with my hands, and I think it was just I got it. It was the first time I did something and it clicked. Like this was what I was meant to do. I started out, I was actually, all I was doing was rebuilding carburetors. And I got so good at it that I got accepted to state for Skills USA for weed whacker carburetor rebuilding.
Oh,
I
how
didn't go to
funny.
state, but I got accepted to it.
That's not something I hear every day. That's fantastic. So it clicked immediately for you that
Yeah.
this was the thing.
Mhm.
That's so awesome. What did you think you were originally going to go into in teaching? I'm curious.
History. I love history and I'm obsessed with history. That's how I started watching County's Cars, is it was on the History Channel, and that was what I watched.
Nice. I saw a post that you had done about the Counting Cars show and how impactful it was for you. Do you want to share a little bit of that story for everybody? Are you okay
Yeah.
with that?
Yeah. So when I was in middle school, I would be home alone on Wednesdays. My mom worked late. My dad and my brother went to Boy Scouts. So I would do laundry, I would cook, and then I would watch Counting Cars. And that's how I kind of learned that there was an industry for classic cars. And then obviously when I found McPherson, I was watching that. And so I knew it was there, but I was doing auctions for Barrett Jackson as an intern, and I
We're
had
going to come
gotten,
back to that.
yeah, but I got my parents had been, I flew my parents out to Barrett Jackson to be at this auction, and I got this text from my mom as I'm doing a pre-stage. So I was one of the mechanics before the cars went onto the stage, and my mom goes, "You will not believe who is here." And I left my job post. I should have gotten reprimanded. I went running, and there was like this huge crowd around him and security and everything. And I'm wearing this Barrett Jackson polo, and I tapped the security guard on the shoulder, and I'm like, "Listen, I don't want a picture. I don't want anything. I want to say thank you to him." And the guy goes, "What?" And I said, "I want to say thank you. He's the reason I'm here." And so as soon as he comes out of this like gated section, the security guard pulled him aside for me. And I got
Oh,
to say thank you, and I got a hug, and it was just wonderful. It was just wonderful.
that's awesome. I love that. It's really neat to be able to like draw back to in your memory, like a really clear point of like, this is where this started for me. This is what inspired me. And that's really cool to hear. I love it. Okay, so you go to McPherson.
Mhm.
I know there's a whole lot more to this story. You teased a little bit with Barrett Jackson. We're going to get to that part, but tell me about McPherson. Like, they're a really prestigious school for automotive in general, right?
Yeah. So currently, they are the only college with a 4-year bachelor's program. And there's the automotive restoration program, and then it has subsections. So you can do technology, you can do motorcycle maintenance, you can do business, you can do media. There's a whole bunch to it.
Okay.
I was a technology major. I was like 2 credits shy of being a history minor, stuff like that. So I spent most of my time in the shop, taking all the classes. My freshman year, I helped run the Cars Club swap meet. And then my sophomore year, me and Samantha Dowler, my homegirl, we ran the McPherson College Car Show together.
That's awesome. What made you choose that program specifically? Was it just because you saw it when you were researching, or?
No, so I saw it when I was researching, and I applied to McPherson College and I applied to Penn State, and I got accepted to both. Um, and for some reason, I was just like, Mom, let's go check out McPherson. So we're both from Florida. We go to McPherson. The whole entire campus is iced over. It's cold, it's miserable, it's dreary. And we walk into Templeton Hall, which is the automotive restoration building. And the first thing I saw was the showcase with like 3 or 4 cars they had. And I was just so blown away. I had never seen cars like that. I had been exposed to muscle cars. I had never seen cars like that. And it just felt like coming home. It was that exact moment where I walked into Templeton. I was like, no, never going anywhere else.
Wow. That's awesome. How did you find it originally? I mean, I feel like that's something that we struggle with in the trades in general is like, people don't know about these programs in these schools, that it's an opportunity. Like, how did you come across it?
Like I said, it was an accident. I was doing college applications. I had applied to UF for their history program to become a teacher. And I was like, I'm not really happy with education right now. I was like, what else would I rather do? And I was like, I would rather build cars. And so I Googled, like I said, I Googled colleges for automotive restoration. First one that came up was McPherson College.
Oh, well,
It
that's
was,
cool.
yeah, it was sheer dumb luck.
That's kind of how I wound up in Arizona. Sheer dumb luck.
How
Or
did you end up in Arizona?
because I was looking for technical schools, and the first one that came up was Universal Technical Institute, and
Gotcha.
and they had 4 cities that they were in at the time. One was Florida, which I had no interest in doing. One was Chicago, which was like cold and windy, so I wasn't down for that. And then one was in California in a town called Rancho Cucamonga that I had never heard of, and I thought it sounded weird. I didn't know. And then one was in Phoenix, and so here I am.
Okay.
And then I got stuck. But yeah, totally by accident. It was like, advertising works, right?
Mhm.
So what made you go into the restoration side of things versus, the mechanical where you'd kind of gotten your feet wet in high school?
Mhm. I just, and I can go deeper into this.
Go deep, girl. Go deep.
Okay. I'm very much an old soul. So I don't have internet. I am purely operating off of data right now. I don't have internet. I don't have cable. I have the tiniest TV ever.
Good for you.
Yeah, I have a record player. I have a treadle-foot sewing machine. I have a rocking chair.
That's awesome.
All my furniture is antique. It's what I grew up with, so it's what I know. So when it came time to working on cars, I remember replacing the starter in my '03 Ranger, and I was like, this sucks. And I was like, I would much rather work on something cool. And for me, something cool at that time was a Mustang. Now that's a little different, but, but it just transferred over.
Okay. Very cool. Very interesting. Okay, so what was McPherson like being there, and what was the program like?
I have made this joke in the past, and it's distasteful. McPherson College is a cult. It is a cult, and I love
Why?
it.
Tell me how so.
It is probably the only place in the world other than Hershey where you can walk in and be surrounded by 100 people just like you. You go in and you go to class, and it's a small school. It's a tiny school. There's 150 kids in the restoration program. So you share all your classes with these car kids, and then you go to Cars Club, and they do the ice cream socials and the drive-in. So you're always surrounded by them. And then across the street from the college is Mustang, and that's storage sheds, which the company rents out to students, and students keep their cars over there, and they work on their cars there.
Okay.
So you could get up at 6 a.m, go to drivetrain for a couple of hours, get lunch, go to electrical for a couple of hours, go to work, go out to the sheds at night, and somebody will be doing an engine swap on their truck, or someone will be throwing a party surrounded by their Thunderbird. It's fun. And I mean, like, there's so much car culture in Kansas. There's so much.
That's awesome. But you said you were going into this, like, not actually knowing a whole heck of a lot about it. Did you feel like you were out of place at first because you didn't know anything, or was it totally a homecoming and there was no awkwardness? And
the only awkwardness came from me, myself, and I was totally accepted. I totally felt comfortable, and I have this really great ability to keep my mouth shut when I don't know something. So, and you should listen more than you talk. So the first week I kind of picked up on a lot more than I ever thought I would. And then I bought a 71 F100. And then between the 71 F100, keeping my ears open, going to classes, and then connecting what I knew from gas engines with the college, I was able to pick up on cars, I think, much quicker than the average person would.
Were a lot of your fellow students, like, did they already have experience, or was it pretty normal to not?
It's a good 50-50 mix. Some kids go in not knowing anything, and they do wonderful. And then some kids go in and they're like, my dad owns a shop, or my dad owns a collection, or I restore cars with my dad. And that's also super cool. It's a good mix. It's a good balance. And everyone's super respectful of each other and their knowledge.
Nice. Any other women in your program? Curious.
There were a ton. There
Really?
was a ton. There was probably, when I was a freshman, there was probably about 8 or 9 of us.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and some of us are still really close. Samantha Dowler works at the Cobra Experience. Well, she used to work at the Cobra Experience. She now works for the Bug-Eye Guy in Connecticut.
The Bug-Eye Guy?
They only do Austin Healey sprites.
Ooh.
Yep. And then
that's fun.
Abigail Morgan, I graduated with her. She works for McPherson College in the automotive restoration department.
Nice.
Paige Milam lives in New Mexico. She was doing paint and body. There's I can list off 5 girls. I don't know what they're all doing, but they're all out there. They're all kicking ass and taking names, and I'm super happy and proud for all of them.
That's awesome. So, like, 8 women out of you said like 100?
150.
That's not, I mean, that's still very far a minority, but like, that's more than it was when I went to school.
Yeah, it's more than I thought would be. And honestly, since leaving McPherson, I've met way more women, and they're so cool. They're so cool.
Right. I feel like I have my car friends, and I have my girlfriends, and then I have my car girl friends, and it's like this totally different world, because there's this instant understanding of, oh my God, you're another one of me out there. Like, you get me, you get my struggles, you get my excitement over weird technical problems, and it's a different kind of bond.
Yep. I had one of those moments where one of my friends from Florida came to visit. She's a nurse. And I had been struggling with some AC on a Packard, and I like shot out of the shower and called up my coworker, and I was like, I have a theory. And she was like, what is wrong with you?
There's nothing wrong with you. That is perfectly normal. For us cool kids, at least, that's perfectly normal. Right? So I'm interested because I came up in a very different generation than you did. And I noticed when I was at one dealership and it was all older guys and they were very not comfortable with, they'd never been exposed to female technicians. It was like this weird foreign thing. And then I moved out to Arizona and I worked with mostly younger technicians who had way less of a reaction. Like I think they'd
Mhm.
been exposed to more girls in trade school or just it had become started to become normalized. Do you feel you're much younger than a lot of the ladies that I work with and speak to regularly? What was your experience of that? Do you find the younger generation, your generation, being more open?
I I'm going to say it's a 50-50 shot depending on the person.
Fair.
Because I have older gentlemen who are wonderful and they respect me and they treat me well, and I have younger guys who don't respect me at all. So I think it's more about upbringing than age.
Fair. Very fair. Talk to me about the disrespect experiences. I want to talk about the positives too, but I'm I think it's important. We don't often talk about the yucky negative part, and I think it's
Mm-hmm.
important for people to hear that and know that it still exists.
Mm-hmm. Um, I'm not going to be comfortable talking about a lot of this, so bear with me.
That's okay. And if you
Um,
don't want to go there, that's totally cool.
yeah. Um, so my shop teacher in high school, um, is no longer a shop teacher for good reason, I hope. But there were some comments he made when I was way too young, that were not okay. And for one thing, I was very much treated like a secretary. He asked me to write curriculum and write tests, and I was just not comfortable with that. I did it because you don't know better. Um, but there were definitely moments where he would say some very inappropriate things to me, and I didn't know better. So I walked away. I just let it happen, and that's my bad. I should have told somebody. Um, but that was a very big thing that stuck with me. And I was really concerned about going to McPherson because I had this bad professor. And I was like, man, I really hope they're not all like that. But then all the men all the professors at McPherson College were just amazing, amazing men. And I respect the hell out of every single one of them. Um, when I was in college, there were definitely some conversations I overheard, not about me, thank God, but about other girls that made me really cringy and kind of like I should say something, but it's also not my place because I'm not in that conversation. But they were uncomfortable to hear. Um, and then since graduating, and I can think of a few instances, um, I came out of McPherson still really green. Because it's a college, they're teaching you the basis, the foundation, and then it's up to you to hone your skills afterwards. And so I came out really green, and I felt like at the shops afterward, I was expected to do more than I was able to do because I just didn't have the knowledge. And I was expected to know more than I should know. Um, and once I got to Graveyard, that stopped because Mark is my boss. Mark gets it. He gets it. He gets that I'm 23 and our other coworker, Brad, is 25. He gets that we're fresh out of college and there's going to be shit we don't know. And sometimes we're going to mess up. And he accounts for it and he just does amazing at it. So the respect level at Graveyard is nothing I had ever experienced. I definitely feel like I am respected for who I am and what I know and what I can do and what I will do in the future. And that's a whole different way than I was treated at my last two shops. The last two shops, the people were wonderful. I just wasn't a good fit for them. And that's okay.
That's fair. You were very wise for your age, my dear.
Thanks.
Did you just spit your beer out?
A little bit. I wasn't prepared for that.
You're very
I think I lost you.
perspective on things, and it's really refreshing to hear. And I'm so glad that you found a shop that has been so much of a nurturing place for you. And God, I wish more shops understood exactly what you said. Like we come out of tech school. That doesn't mean we know everything, right? Like
Oh yeah.
it's you don't have somebody graduate from medical school and then the next day perform brain surgery, right? Like they have to go through
Yeah.
residency and all of the things and learn and but somehow we get out of tech school and they're like, well, you took the class, I saw that you took the class, so how come you don't know this?
Hmm. Well, also, and I'm sure everyone can relate to this, no two cars are the same. They might be the same year, they might be the same make, they might be the same model,
Right.
but who knows who has been in there?
Yes, especially with older cars, my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
How many hands have been in there? How many people have touched it and done weird stuff to it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm dealing with right now, honestly.
Oh no, what project are you working on right now?
um, so not today. Today I had to go up to Nashville to service something, but this week I've been doing a wire. We're doing a 12-volt conversion on a 1954 Packard.
Ooh.
When it came in, it was a mixture of somebody updating the AC system to work on 12 volts while the rest ran off of the original 6-volt system with the original cloth.
I said interesting.
it, it's been a process, but they still had the original cloth wires from 1954 with all this new wiring. So I tore out all this wiring, and it's a cool car, don't get me wrong, but there were house nuts, there was relays wired together on relays, and there was exposed wiring, and I don't understand how anything worked. I just don't get it.
It's amazing what we find working on cars, isn't it?
Oh yeah, and because people live their lives in them.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there are a lot of techs and folks out there who are not doing things in the appropriate way. And so, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I see that every day.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. Let's go back in time again, though. We're present, we're past, we're bouncing all over the place. But you have a fantastic story. So I want to hear a little bit about what happened with your first job, what this internship or program with Barrett Jackson, like what was the next steps for you?
Okay, so my first internship was with the Tampa Bay Auto Museum.
Okay.
And that was so cool because if you have the chance, I know you obviously don't like Florida. That's okay. We'll convert
I fly there every month though, so it's okay.
Okay. Well, go to St. Petersburg, check out the Tampa Bay Auto Museum.
Okay.
It is phenomenal. So basically, the owner of Polypack, I think it's called, is a French engineer who collects cars. So what he does is he collects these extremely rare European cars that were engineering feats. So there's a Derby, and that's a V8. It was a racing car. It runs off of 4 cylinders, or you can run it off of 8 cylinders, or you can it's wild. But he has a bunch of cars like that. And I worked with the mechanic and then a little bit with the upholsterer. And that was my first car job ever. So they were pretty much just humoring me, and that's okay. I get it. But I had a lot of fun. I learned a lot. I got to do my first painting there before I ever took a paint class. Nice. The body guy was like, hey, spray this valve cover. And I was like, it's kind of humid. But it was fun. And then when I ran the car show the next year, the Jeff Catlin from Barrett Jackson, he liked how I ran the show. He said, hey, come work an auction with me. I did 2 auctions with them. I had a lot of fun. It was something I will probably never be able to do again. It was fantastic. It was fun. It was hard work, long days, but I met so many people and I had such a good experience. But while I was doing that, I also did a summer internship for Enfield Auto Restoration in Enfield, Connecticut, okay. Which is very close to where I was born. And I loved working there. I loved the dynamic of the shop and how everyone worked together. I loved the cars I worked on. And then when I graduated college, I went to Detroit Muscle Speed Shop in Florida, and I went to SS Automotive and Restoration in Virginia. And hot rodding just isn't my thing. Can I do an LS swap? Yes. Can I do a transmission swap? Yes. Can I put vintage air in your car? Yes. But I would much rather take something original and rebuild it, and I'm okay with that.
Absolutely. Well, it's such a huge thing to be able to know what it is you like and what it is you don't like, and to have that really clear path for yourself and to know, yeah, this isn't a fit for me. That's fun experience. Next.
Yep, and I learned a lot from both those shops. I came out, especially from SS, I came out a much stronger mechanic than I had been going in, but it was because I had been thrown to the wolves and I didn't know what I was doing, and it wasn't right. But graveyard is right. I love the shop. I love the cars. I love the people. I love where we're located. So it all worked out.
Nice. Did you find it was hard or easy to get a job when you graduated?
I had an interesting experience. So I graduated and I, for some reason, could not get a job, but I was freelancing for a company in Vermont, New Hampshire, somewhere up there, doing the research and documentation.
Okay.
I don't do it anymore. But basically, when they sent a car off to auction, they wanted a huge paper written up about it. So, provenance and all that shit. So that's what I did for a couple of months. And then when I went home to Florida, someone was like, hey, you should check out this place. And I went, and that was Detroit Muscle. And then once I got my foot in the door, I never had an issue getting a job.
That's good. That is good to hear. I like hearing that, especially as somebody, who's coming in with not a ton of experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to hear that there are shops out there willing to take on new people. That's exciting.
Yeah, it was great. It was a little disappointing though, because both shops right out of college, they were like, I almost didn't hire you because you were female. And I was like, that's not what I want to hear.
Interesting. They outright said that to you. Did they also say why they decided to hire you?
A lot of times it was just because either someone convinced them, or they were like, okay, or they thought about it, or they decided to give me a shot. I don't really know the reasoning, but they definitely said, you almost didn't get hired because you were female, which is so funny because this shop here, I think I got hired because I was female.
I was just having that conversation with somebody today. This you either don't get it because you're a woman, or even if you didn't get it because you're a woman, that's what people will say or accuse you of, right? Like, oh, you only got that because you're a girl, or it's such an interesting, double-edged sword. It's
mm-hmm.
very interesting thing.
It's weird. It's weird because on a day-to-day basis, I don't think about the fact that I'm female.
Yeah, I get that. I feel like that's the way it should be, right? I do these happy hours that are so focused on women, and so much that I do is focused around, supporting and promoting women in the trades. And the irony is that at the end of the day, I don't want to be known as a female mechanic. I just want to be a mechanic, right?
Yeah.
I just want to do my job. I just want to work on cars and have it be a non-issue.
Oh, yeah. And that's a comment I get a lot. Oh, it's so great to see a girl working on cars, or that's not something you see every day. It's like, I am just here to do my job, enjoy my job, and get a paycheck so I can pay my mortgage.
Yes.
I'm not doing anything cool.
Yes. And because you love it.
I do. I really do.
What is your favorite part of restoration? What are the parts that you love?
Very literally, I love wiring. I love doing mechanical work. I love final assembly. Paint and body work is definitely growing on me. Honestly, I like the repetitive of it. So that's kind of weird. But I love the cars. I love the cars and how unique they are, and the history and the customers. So it's the story. I love the story.
People part. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you just listed off pretty much everything except for metalwork. Excuse me.
I spent a lot of sheet metal crying in the bathroom.
Sheet metal wasn't your thing, huh?
No. I called my dad so often. It felt so bad.
So, for some other women out there who are listening, or even young men who are out there and maybe having their own self-doubts or having their own insecurities, having that same experience of crying over something that they're not picking up, how do you come back from that? How did you handle that?
At the end of the day, I kind of realized, hey, maybe this isn't my thing, but I can build the hell out of an engine. And there was a moment in electrical class where wiring finally just clicked for me, and I got it, and I was like, oh, this makes up for it. You can't be good at everything. You just can't. So additionally, I have had the opportunity since college to take welding classes and sheet metal classes, and I've been saving up for them. So eventually one day, maybe sheet metal will be my thing, but there's just some things you need to work a little harder for. And for me, that's sheet metal.
That's fair. I love the gentleness with yourself. And I think we could all use a little bit of a dose of that, right? Like, okay, maybe this just isn't my thing, and that's okay. That's especially since electrical is your thing, and that is like a thing that intimidates a lot of people.
You know, I think it's the theory that's intimidating, because that's what was hard for me, was the theory. The practice is easy. The practice, you run some wires, you solder some wires. It's not that hard. I mean, like, put heat shrink on. Electrical tape is not flame. Okay, electrical tape is flame retardant, but it is not flame proof. So
I feel like there's a story there.
It's actually not. It was a lecture in college where they were like, cloth tape, and I was like, okay. And they were like, cloth tape, and I was like, okay, I get it.
Okay, got it.
But I've seen what happens when wires catch fire. It ain't pretty.
No, it is not. Okay, so we're bouncing back and forth between present and past, and my cat just bit me. Ow. Sorry. Okay. Yes, he's just a little brat and an ornery old man.
I understand. Mine's asleep right now.
Oh, nice. What kind of dog do you have?
I have a very large Shepherd Chow mix.
Oh.
He's an asshole. There's no way around it.
Fair enough. I'm clearly used to that with my asshole cat here. Okay. So have we gone through all the past stuff? Like, there's no like other shops that you stopped at or winding paths along the way?
No.
All right. Okay. So sheet metal's not your friend. Everything else you love. Are there other things within, like, aside from the sheet metal and aside from the welding, are there areas that you find more challenging?
A lot of it is just I haven't had the time to practice. The other thing is, you probably can't tell by this conversation, I'm not big on people. My people skills are not there.
I 100% cannot tell. You hide it extremely well.
Thank you. I've had practice. I'm not a people person. I'm usually very quiet. There was definitely a pep talk before this interview. But I very much struggle with communicating with customers and parts people and ordering parts. I'm just not very good at it. And that's all me. It has nothing to do with anyone else. I just get frustrated. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's all car work. It's all stuff you just need to do and practice and work on, and that's what I've been doing the last couple of years. It's been a year of growth, so that's the goal.
Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? What do you want to be doing?
So that's kind of changed recently. I will be the first person to tell you I never wanted to own a shop, and the older I get, the more I'm like, man, maybe I should just open up a shop. It probably won't happen. I'd like to still be in this industry, hopefully still be working for Graveyard, still having fun, still working on cars. I'd like to send a car to Pebble Beach. That's been the goal. We are sending a car to Pebble Beach. It's just not here yet. But all that stuff. And then further down the line, I would really like to be a shop teacher. I would really like to be the shop teacher I didn't have when I was in high school.
Oh, I love that. Yes, because Lord, like, the shop teacher you had could have very well been the reason, like, could have dissuaded you from doing it.
Mm-hmm. Like, if I feel really weird about it, if I had a weaker backbone, if I didn't have tough skin, I maybe never would have gone into cars. But I was able to take everything he said to me with a smile and ignore it. And sometimes that's the best thing you can do. Put your blinders on and focus on the goal. And for me, the goal was just getting through the damn class.
Right. I love the idea of it coming full circle for you. I mean, wanting to go into teaching originally, finding your way to cars, and then finding a way back to that, and just the sentiment of being the shop teacher you never had, I think is just that would be just a phenomenal story. I love that.
I would really like it to work out that way. So we'll see.
Yeah. I'm curious of two things within there. So one is, we're talking about the ability to have this shop teacher not destroy you, not dissuade you from going into to the path that you did. And you talk about having backbone and thicker skin. Where do you attribute that to? Where did that come from in you? That strength.
If you can't tell by my last name, I'm half Italian. And yeah, and on top of that, my dad is an immigrant. So for me growing up, I had a really weird immigrant experience where I was half an immigrant, half not. So every Saturday morning, we got up and we cleaned. If you didn't go to extracurriculars unless you went to school and you did your homework, if the roof needed fixing, when I was 16, my boyfriend broke up with me, and that same day, my dad made me get up on the roof and fix the roof. Especially, and I know for Hispanic cultures it's there, and I know it's there for Italian cultures. Women have to be strong in those cultures because it's so family oriented that it's not just one person supporting the family, it is everyone. And so you carry your weight, and it's the same thing in a relationship. It's 50-50, unless it's 60-40 occasionally. But when someone's down, you pick them up. And when you're struggling, you carry on, because that's how you get through life.
Very interesting perspective. Thank you for sharing that. I cannot get over this fact that you think that you're not good with people.
My mother worked very hard on my manners growing up.
Well, it's not just your manners, it's your eloquence and your ability to put words to these concepts and these experiences, and don't sell yourself short. Something else I wanted to come back to, because you said something about, you never necessarily thought you'd see yourself owning your own business, but now you're thinking maybe. What happened there? What's the shift there?
First of all, let me start off with, I just didn't want to own my own business. I didn't want to deal with the paperwork. I didn't want to deal with the employees. Again, not a people person, so I didn't really want to deal with the customers. And the older I get, the more, I don't want to say it's set in my ways, but the more I get frustrated with people who are set in their ways. And I realized that that's not a good attitude to have when you're the employee. So I love my boss. I love my job, but I also know that that job's not going to be there when he retires. Hopefully. But at the same point, Mark gives us a lot of freedom, like a lot of freedom. And the idea of going to work for someone after working for Mark is hard, because we have flexible schedules. I can come and go as I please as long as I hit my 40 hours. So if I want to go on vacation, I go on vacation. If I need to go to a doctor's appointment, I can go to a doctor's appointment. When I had my first, yeah, it's wonderful. We're allowed to use the shop if we want to. We're allowed. It's a very family setting, so there's a lot of freedom, and the idea of not having that freedom after I leave kind of just sucks.
So he's ruined you, basically.
Yeah, I'm never going to have a boss like that again. Like, what am I going to do?
Maybe you'll take over the shop when he's ready to retire. No?
A lot of paperwork.
So still not wanting to own your own business because of the paperwork, but terrified of working for anybody else who isn't as good as Mark. Got it.
Yeah. Stuck in this weird in-between spot, like, what am I going to do?
That's totally, is this like an impending thing that he's thinking about? Like, so we're a ways off still.
No,
okay.
He's 54. He's got a 16-year-old son who might take over the business. I don't know what the plan is. I don't want to know what the plan is, but the shop's going to be there. It's
Good.
just me being like,
right.
Get out a little bit.
Okay, so it's not like you shifted gears and were like, I'm gonna own my own shop now.
No. He's talked about retiring a few times, and I'm just like, what am I gonna do when he retires?
It's funny. I'm seeing like comments in the feed right now saying like, you could run a business, no problem, do it. Like, clearly everybody else is seeing the same thing I see in you, like this, very articulate.
So John Miller, hi John. I've known him since I was 7.
Oh,
that's one of my best friends.
That's awesome. There were some other comments though too, besides your old friends.
That's great. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. I have this strange feeling that you are the type of woman or the type of person that whatever you set your brain to, you're going to go out and accomplish. So
I'm stupidly ambitious. I actually have, dude, are you okay? Sorry, the dog. I think he's having a dog mare.
Okay.
I actually have a Macbeth tattoo on my arm from the dagger speech, which is about ambition. So I know, I am very ambitious, and I think sometimes it's not the best trait to have. So,
what do you mean by that?
Ambition is great. It can help you reach your goals, but it can also cause you to lose sight of what's important. And sometimes there's a point where you have to step back from ambition. And it's really that line when you are ambitious is super important to toe. Because your family has got to come first. Your friends have got to come first. Your house has got to come first. So you can't just, and I'm bad about this, I will drop everything for an adventure. It's why I've lived so many places. So.
Excuse me. Still got this lingering cough from COVID, but it's so funny. Like, I feel like maybe you were a fly on the wall the last couple of days, because I legit just had that conversation with somebody else too. Like just last night, like this idea of finding that balance between, you know, truly being happy and grateful and living in the moment and enjoying where you're at, while also striving for bigger, better, more, right? And figuring that that balance out is a really interesting thing. And I think you're right. It is kind of the curse of the ambitious, right?
Yeah.
The setters of big goals, that sometimes we get lost in striving for more and not being present now. Is your dog still having nightmares?
Actually, he just woke up. Can I flip this camera?
Yeah, show us the puppy.
How do I do that? I'm not heavy. This is Denver.
Oh, what a cutie.
He just got shaved.
Look at that face. All right, so this right here, y'all, is like the example of both striving and being present in the moment. It's like, let's get deep, let's get real. Aw, puppy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yes. Enjoy the moment. Always strive for more moments to enjoy, right? I think that's what it comes down to.
Well, your happiness can only come from yourself. Nothing in the world is going to make you happy. Only you can make yourself happy. So,
cheers to that, my dear. Cheers to that. So, mom and dad. So, dad was a tradesman as well. What did mom do?
Started out as one, yeah.
Started out as one, okay. And how about mom?
My mom is, currently she's payroll for the city of Lakeland. She's the payroll manager. And she was in HR before that, hence the manners and being well with people. But my dad was a carpenter, and then he put himself through college, and he went into management. And so right now he's a warehouse manager.
So maybe a little bit of this is part of your apprehension about owning your own business. You've got HR and management and seeing those things, and probably the stresses that they're both under with their positions.
My dad's an interesting character. He's a lot more laid back about that kind of thing. But my mom, having been HR and payroll, it's hard. There's a very specific line you toe with paying people and being their friend.
Right.
So, but they're wonderful people. They're so great.
How did they feel or react to this journey that you went on, deciding to pursue this instead of being a history teacher?
So this is going to be that full circle moment.
Okay.
My dad, when I told my dad I wanted to go to college for auto restoration, he kind of looked at me funny. He goes, I better get a car out of this. And my senior year in college, they had a 1967 Pontiac Tempest 4-door in the boneyard. And I said, is that for sale? And they said, well, we're not gonna work on it. So yeah. And I said, how much you want for it? They said, $1,500. So I called my mom. I said, I found Dad a car. I can pay half. Can you pay the other half? And she goes, yep. And I said, cool. Don't tell Dad. So me and a bunch of my friends pushed this car from the boneyard to the sheds. And I spent probably about 6 months working on it without my dad knowing. And I come home for Christmas, and I had gotten these books from McPherson College Library. I had worked there, and they were Italian. They were books about cars in Italian. Wow. And my dad, obviously Italian, I stuck the title to the Pontiac in between the pages, and I gave him the books for Christmas. And he opens it up, and he goes, what is this? I said, look at it. He goes, what is this? I said, it's the title to your car. And he cried. It was so cute.
I love that story so much.
And since then, me, my brother, my mom, my dad, we've all been putting money into it, working on it. They take it for Sunday rides. It has no AC, so they ride it around in Florida with the windows down. The seats are ripped, the headliner's unfinished, and they love it.
Well, it was a gift from his daughter, of course. How could he not love it?
From all of us.
That is super fantastic. I absolutely love that. And I love his reaction. I better get a car out of this.
Yeah, they are ridiculously proud of me, and they support me so much. And they are probably the best parents I could have ever asked for, because at the end of the day, I called my mom 3 times today to talk about this fuel pump I did today, and she listened to me every time. And she's not a car person, but she's picking up on it. So, but when I got into cars, my dad became full send with it. Started looking at cars for sale online, started watching car videos, started sending me all the stuff. So they went full in, and it's great.
That's awesome. That is really good to hear. Do you, because I get asked this a lot, so I'm curious to hear your answer. Because I was on a path to do something completely different as well, and I often get asked, do I ever think about what my life might be like if I had stayed on that path? Do I ever regret making that decision?
That's a weird question for me, because so much of my life depended on that moment where I said, I'm going to go to McPherson College. That totally changed everything for me. Because if I hadn't gone to McPherson, I would be teaching history in a high school in Florida. And I never would have met the people I met. I never would have gotten the opportunities I got. So do I regret it? No. Do I think about it? Occasionally, when I'm under the dash and my hair is caught in a cable and I'm just like, I could have been a teacher. I would. No, I love how life turned out.
That's awesome. That is fantastic to hear. And isn't that true though too? It's like we only question our decision when we're in the middle of like some massive problem. And it's always that moment where I'm like, why did I decide to do this? Who thought this was a good idea?
But at the end of the day, it was your choice.
Right.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. And then once you conquer it, you're like, yes.
Mm-hmm. I ripped an engine and transmission out of a fair lane the other day, and I just was like, I'm a bad bitch.
You are a bad bitch.
Oh, thank you.
You are 100% a badass. More so. Because you're not a bitch. You're just a badass.
Oh, no, definitely a bitch, but that's okay. We hide it well. That's the point.
Fair. What is the most exciting car that you've worked on, or favorite car you've worked on so far? Is there one?
So many. The one I am most in love with currently is a 1941 Nash Ambassador 6. It's a fairly rare car. It's not crazy or anything, but I love the customer, and the story is so romantic, and I just love it. But the coolest car, and probably the one I'm most proud of, we have 2 1937 Chrysler Imperial C14 convertibles in our shop. One's in our shop. The other one is the one I worked on today. There's like 6 in the world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's an extremely rare car. They're stunningly beautiful. They're actually going to be featured cars at the Hilton Head Concours d'Elegance, I think this year. And then
nice.
they've been invited to Pebble, I think a time or two. I don't know. But they're so cool. They're so cool.
So you're really getting to work on some seriously high-end vehicles.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I dreamed about it. I dreamed about it. And I never thought it would come true. I thought I was going to be working on Mustangs and Chargers the rest of my life. And then to walk into Graveyard Run and be like smack dab hit with that Chrysler, I was like, oh shit.
Just got real.
Oh yeah. And to be working on those cars and then be respected while working on those cars, totally different ballpark.
I so appreciate this time that we spent together tonight. Your perspective is so refreshing, and also the experience that you've had, hearing how positive it's been, hearing how many supporters you've had, and people really cheering you on and supporting you regardless of gender, irrelevant, right? Gender being irrelevant, is so good to hear, and it reinstills my faith a little bit in the world and with the industry. So I'm so honored to have spent this time with you. I would love to meet you in real life sometime. You are absolutely incredible. I know that you are going to achieve anything you set your mind to. I do want to ask one last question because we're wrapping up on our hour here already, which is amazing. It went very fast. If you could go back, this is what I like to always end on. If you could go back and speak to the younger you, or to another little girl or little boy out there who is maybe like you, what are your words of advice or inspiration to them?
The world is a lot smaller than you think, and you are much bigger than you think. And what you can do, you can't even dream of. You can't dream of what you could do. If you set your mind to something and you make the effort and you get fucking lucky, you have no idea.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That is a fantastic thing to end on. Oh my goodness. You are seriously, seriously phenomenal. Cheers. And
Cheers.
My goodness, I'm so thrilled to have met you. I'm so grateful all of you who are watching at home. I hope you guys have enjoyed this as much as I have. Make sure you go follow her and give her some love. Her page will be obviously tagged in this post as well. As always, you can always find this and all of the past happy hours in my IG TV tab. So all of those live there. Go check them out. Tons of amazing women with just such unique and diverse experiences. It's been an honor to be able to do these things over the last year and a half. I do want to thank our sponsor, Drive Time, again for making this possible, for showing their support of women in the trades and allowing this to keep going. So thank you to all of you out there. Thank you, Bella. 100%. Have a fantastic evening. Everybody at home, be good to yourselves, be good to one another, and have a great night.
Good night. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.